And ladies and gentlemen, this issue of E911 funding is absolutely critical that New York State get its act together and release last year's money for E911 services here in Genesee County. This funding delay is completely unacceptable because it affects public safety of the residents of our communities. And this particular funding grant was established and is set up to be used to help counties in their 911 operating and answering systems. And these answering systems are called PSAPs, Public Safety Answering Systems. And the COVID-19 pandemic has been extremely trying on our counties, and the delay of this funding is adding to their incredible burden. Counties have been one of the primary service providers throughout the pandemic, and what does the state do? They delay funding and they hold up critical resources for services that our counties provide. Our emergency personnel right here in Genesee County and across New York State have stepped up during the pandemic to assure public safety, and this is how the state pays them back with an over 1 year delay in their critical resources. In addition to being delayed for over a year, I have heard firsthand from county leaders that the grant funding process is overly burdensome and extremely antiquated. Leave it to New York State to be overly burdensome and extremely antiquated. I guess we shouldn't be surprised. Further, the state has not informed counties when they will be able to apply in this year's budget for the operating grants. The dates of the funding release have also changed year over year, as have the application dates. So there's no clarity, there's no transparency, there's no understanding the process year over year for how these 911 grants can be released to Genesee County. And this also goes beyond the delayed funding. There are fundamental flaws with the system here, and our counties and our emergency personnel should not have to suffer these delays. It's totally unacceptable. Unfortunately, this is the same old story out of New York State when it comes to funding delays, delays in processes, red tape, bureaucracy, failed management. Incredible delays are the norm. New York State should change that because the residents, the counties, and the service providers are tired of it. Unfortunately, this is happening across many different areas of New York State. So today, as Senator Ed Rath, I am calling on the New York State Department of Budget to immediately release this critical funding from last year's budget, put the money where it belongs in the hands of Genesee County, and let's continue to provide the great E911 services in our community. And now I'm proud to introduce my good friend, Assemblyman Steve Holly.
Thanks, Ed. Yep. Well, welcome to this warm, sunny afternoon or morning. It seems like afternoon because the sun is so bright. We wish the state of New York would brighten the funds coming rightfully from last year to the folks in our counties who run the E911 program. The backbone of our emergency response system is our 911 line and the trained, skilled operators who manage all crises across the state. With the threat of underfunding present, we relied on these systems tremendously during the COVID-19 pandemic, and we, as state legislators, Senator Rath and myself, are demanding that we streamline the broken system and fund our vital emergency response services while taking into account the needs of the localities they serve. We must assure the money we collect to support our emergency response system is being used as intended to maintain our emergency response capabilities. As mentioned in a letter sent by the New York State Association of Counties to the governor's office in September of last year, we want to have the state tax law do as it's supposed to do, providing 50 cents of every $1.20 rendered by the public safety communications surcharge is diverted to the state's general fund, which services the majority of state operations. The remaining 70 cents is divided among various public safety programs, including state agencies, to supplant general fund appropriations. This inefficient system is slow, it's cumbersome, and doesn't effectively take into account the unique needs of the incredibly diverse communities of our state. We need a streamlined process for funding that gets money where it needs to be, when it's needed, so our first responders can be there when they're needed. Risks of underfunding highlight the need for a more fair and more efficient access by local officials to ensure that our money is being spent wisely and in a way that supports our emergency response services as effectively and as efficiently as possible. With that said, if the budget funds were simply distributed as intended in a timely manner, this wouldn't be the dilemma it is for all of us today. Our demand is the same as it was last September. The state must release all funds for public safety answering point operations and statewide interoperable communication grants as authorized in the 2019-2020 budget. The state must ensure that every year moving forward, funding is provided in full in the budget year in which it was appropriated. Finally, the state must facilitate a fair funding process and provide counties with the needed funding for PSAPs, PSAPs, and interoperable communications. Getting this money where it belongs is literally saving people's lives in our communities. This problem deserves to be treated with the same urgency as we expect those responding to our own emergencies. To put it plainly, Senator Rath and I, along with many of our colleagues, believe the time for more local involvement is well past due. To mitigate issues that may arise if undermining problems becomes a problem, local governments need to have more say in how funds are spent to ensure our dollars are going as far as they can to serve their intended purpose of maintaining our 911 systems. I want to thank Senator Rath for his partnership and perseverance on this issue, and I want to thank all of you for what you do to assure people can count on someone to be there when they need help, wherever and whenever that may be. Thank you, and God bless our emergency responders and our law enforcement. Thanks so much. Senator Rath, thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve. Now I'm proud to introduce Genesee County Chairwoman Shelley Stein.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Assemblyman. What you've done today is drawn attention to this sleight of hand trickery that continues in Albany in regards to public safety. And I think I'm not the first one to say that public safety is not political. Public safety is about quality of life here in Genesee County. The fact that you can call on Albany, both of you, in one voice in solidarity, we will add ours to your voices to say to Albany, please release that funding, because it is the county that again provides that service. Whether we have received those funds or not, we are the sponge that continues to get wrung dry of funds, and yet those services continue to be provided. So, please, I would add our voice to your request. Thank you very much for your actions in Albany, and also take that message from Genesee County. Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you very much, Shelley. And speaking for Assemblyman Holly, we've heard your voice loud and clear. And we're both proud to represent Genesee County, and we're going to take that advocacy straight to Albany to try to get this funding released as quickly as we possibly can. So with that, I'd like to open up to any questions, on-topic questions. Well, the time frame is usually the funding is released long before 14 months after a budget is passed, which is what we're waiting on now. And part of the reasoning was due to the pandemic. And a lot of money was held hostage and held up. Today we're talking about the E911 money, but 14 months is ridiculous. And we're already now approving next year's budget, and there's no clarity on where that money is going to come from this current budget for the next 12 months. So it's usually long sooner than a 14-month delay. It puts jobs and public safety in jeopardy. And if there's anything that a government provides when it comes to services. Public safety is its critical and its core mission. And if we're putting that public safety at risk, shame on New York State for not releasing this money.
My name is Stephen Sharp. I'm the Director of Emergency Communications for Genesee County. So one of the impacts that we run is we use the PSAP operations grant to fund our personnel costs. So that's the equivalent of a senior dispatcher, a dispatcher, and a part-time dispatcher. So that's what we budgeted for. The money did come out last year, but we're waiting for this year's money. For the statewide interoperable communications grant, we're still waiting on the 2019-20 budget year to be allocated to us. We started a process back in 2017 to build a new tower in Molasses Hill to fix the coverage issues that we have up there. And the direct impact here is, we entered into contracts and we're still waiting for the grant money to come through. When we started entering into contracts, that money was appropriated. So it's not like we were waiting for money to be appropriated. The money was there and we were told, you'll be able to apply. Now we're told to wait. And, those bills are coming due. So we want to make sure that we can build the towers that we need to do. We can facilitate the infrastructure. We have to maintain the equipment. This stuff doesn't work all the time for us if we don't have people to maintain it. So, we run a 24/7, 365-day operation, and we kind of need to have the resources necessary to support the people on the road as well as the people back in the dispatch center. Well, like the tower that we're building on Molasses Hill, that's going to directly impact travelers on Route 98 and Route 20. Those are two major thoroughfares through the state of New York. And that's going to have a direct impact on the coverage that those responders have. Right now, we know there's a coverage gap. That's why we built the tower. So that you kind of see where the direct correlation is.